Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing New.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back to the IBFP, and this is the Q&A, and let's just dig right into the questions. And you know what? The first question comes from my brother JB, and he states, in your opinion, out of the young crop of fighters, who will be the first to enter the pound-for-pound top 10 rankings? Now, you know, there's a lot of great young fighters. You got, Ryan Garcia, you got Teofimo Lopez, you got Devin Haney, you got a lot of young fighters that are really talented all across the board. And, but I have a tie for the two young fighters I think that's going to be really special, and either one of these guys could enter the top 10 pound for pound a lot sooner than anyone thinks. And those two guys are, we'll start with Shakur Stevenson first. He's undefeated. And you know what? Not only is he undefeated, he's a WBO featherweight champion. Not only is he a world champion at a young age of only 22 years old, this guy is already sparring and getting experience with guys like Yordenis Ugas. He's getting experience in sparring with guys like Vergil Ortiz. He's, his mentor is Terrence Crawford and Andre Ward. If you could pick and build a fighter from scratch, this is kind of the steps in the sparring and the type of things you would use to build that young fighter. Shakur Stevenson is on a fantastic path, and I think he's going to be pound for pound a lot sooner than anyone can imagine. The kid is talented, his skills are unbelievable, and he seems to be greatly improving fight by fight. And the next one, that we believe is going to be talented and could be on the pound for pound list a lot sooner than anyone believes or thinks is a guy like Virgil Ortiz Jr. Virgil Ortiz Jr., he's 15-0 with 15 knockouts. He's moving up the ranks considerably. And, this kid is getting sparring and top sparring, when he was at 140 from guys like Lucas Mathise. Top sparring in the gym against guys like Jose Ramirez and guys like Mikey Garcia. So, he has a lot of championships level sparring on his, in his background right now. So you give Virgil Ortiz the credit, and you can tell that it's improving him fight by fight. And not only that, this kid was also the prospect of the year in 2019. He took the world and put them on notice that he was coming. The kid is already ready for a step-up fight. He's calling out names like Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, and he's even willing to get in the ring with a guy like Manny Pacquiao. So you see that Virgil Ortiz is already on the path for greatness, and it might not be too long before you see him on a pound for pound list very, very soon. But let's keep it going. The next question comes from Luis Campos, and he states, do you think Canelo Alvarez will ever return to 175 pounds? Now, that's an interesting question, and the only thing I will say is I think for his benefit, it's not to return to 175. I think Canelo Alvarez is a phenomenal fighter, an elite fighter at 160 and 168. Those are his weight classes. Those are the weight classes where he'll be most effective, most successful, and he'll have better advantages to the competition. But if he moves to 175, you have monsters sitting there like Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol. And it's not to say that he couldn't compete with these guys skill for skills, and most definitely he could. But the thing is that these guys' size, power, height, reach, and the weight of the weight class, it is just going to be too much for Canelo. I would have to favor both of those guys over Canelo right now at 175. It's just too much. I think, just like Eddie Reynoso believes that, their plans for Canelo Alvarez should be at 160 and 168. And just by moving up to 175 and fighting those guys, those are the type of fights that take a lot out of you. Those are the type of fights that you're never the same. Those are the type of fights where, it takes years off of your career because these guys are so heavy-handed. They're such grueling fights. So I think it's best for Canelo and his career to stay at 160 and 168. Great question. The next question comes from IBT, Immortal Boxing Truth. Salute to Immortal Boxing Truth, IBT. And he states, who do you believe has the superior boxing IQ, Demetrius Andrade or Jamal Charlo? Who can make better adaptations and alter their strategy depending on opponent? Now, this is a very interesting question. I know there's a pretty lengthy debate about these two guys going on. Some guys believe Demetrius Andrade is this king. Some guys believe Jamal Charlo is. at the end of the day, when you just assess the guy skill for skills, who's able to make more adjustments, I personally would have to lean towards Demetrius Andrade. And it's simply because I know that Jermall Charlo likes to headhunt a little bit too much and tends to fall in love with headhunting. I've seen Demetrius Andrade at least fight in multiple ways. With a guy like Jermall Charlo, I pretty much see him trying to knock the guy out consistently. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some guys are very successful with that style of fighting, but I think sometimes, that makes it difficult when you face different types of opponents. Style-wise, you can be a nightmare for some guys, and some guys can be a nightmare from you. So the guy with the superior boxing IQ, the guy who's able to make the better adaptations, I would lean towards Demetrius Andrade, but not by too much, because, at the end of the day, we don't know how good Demetrius Andrade is until he steps in with a higher level of opponent. He's 32 years old, so we still have to see what he can do against somebody like a Jermall Charlo. Right now, it's just a guessing game. The next question comes from Gary Manning. Salute to Gary Manning. He's one of our loyal listeners, and he states, who has a better chance of beating Vergil Lomachenko, Devin the Dream Haney or Teofimo the Takeover Lopez? Now, this is a very interesting question, and let me tell you why. Because I look at a guy like Devin Haney. This guy has been touted as being the next, version of Floyd Mayweather in and out of the ring. The kid is talented. The kid has a lot of skills. He has a lot of sparring stories. People look at Devin Haney skill for skill as being the next big thing. Then you see that, Teofimo Lopez, he just proved himself against a guy like, Richard Comey, stopping him in one or two rounds. He took on a very tough, undefeated, long, lengthy Nakatani and got the victory there. That was no easy task. So, right now, who's the most proven fighter? Who's the most proven fighter? And you could lean towards the better fighter. As of just of right now, you would have to lean towards Teofimo Lopez and say he would have to have the better chance to beat Vergil Lomachenko. I know there's a lot of guys not a big fan of Devin Haney, but skill for skill, Devin Haney is going to be a special fighter. And you know what? We just have to see him step up just to see how good he is, where he is right now. And a guy like Luke Campbell, those type of guys will show us exactly where Devin Haney is and where he truly belongs. Great question. The next one comes from Richard Castaway, and he says, do you think Callum Smith is now being underrated after his bad performance to John Ryder? And you know what? I'll have to agree with that. I think he is. I think Callum Smith is a great athlete. He's very big, and, he's strong. He's pretty quick at times. And at the end of the day, I think that was just a terrible performance. But, looking at the rest of his resume, he's looked pretty good in almost all of his fights. So this was the one anomaly. So, we don't know what caused that bad fight. Was it just a bad style matchup? Was it, the weight cut? Because he's a very big guy. Was it just a bad night? So there's a lot of reasons why he could have had that showing. But the best way that Callum Smith can show us, hey, don't write me off, don't underrate me, is to give John Ryder an immediate rematch, beat him clearly and convincingly, and put all of that talk to rest. Because as long as he does not give him that rematch, it will always be brought up about, hey, we thought John Ryder beat you, and you never made that right. It's imperative that he goes back, gets that rematch, and make that right. But once again, unbiased as always, it's the IBFP.